Hawaii Blues fan. We're bleeding blue with you. Let's go Blues! Let's go Blues! Let's go Blues!
Presented by Scott Credit Union. Yours.
BlueNote Fan Report. Aloha and mahalo. Welcome to the BlueNote Fan Report. I am Guy, the Hawaii Blues fan, and I have an incredible special super show for you today. Yes, I do. And on the day I get this plan, what do the Blues do? They go and sign Jordan Kyrou to a $65 million extension. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but I really want to get into my guest today. I have a guy with me who got to do an amazing experience. One that just, when I found out about it, I was messaging him left and right and telling him I wanted to talk about it. And he finally got back to me, and he is, a man after my own heart. That's all I can say. So please let me welcome the one, the only, one of the original Warriors, Mr. Johnny Neal. Hey, Johnny, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
I am good, Johnny. I am good. First of all, I have to say thank you so much for joining us today. This means a lot to me. Like I told you before, the Warrior program, it's very near and dear to my heart. I am retired Navy. I did 20 years from 87 to 07, served in both Gulf Wars, served in Iraqi freedom, the Afghanistan, the war on terror. I did all of that. So this program means a lot to me in more ways than you'll know. And to have somebody who's been in it from the beginning, like you have, is really a great honor.
Oh man, yeah, I've been lucky. I've been really lucky for sure.
How did you get involved with the Warrior program? And you're part of, and I just want to get this, you're part of the Kansas City Warrior program, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I'm part of the Kansas City Warriors.
Okay.
But so I was working for Wounded Warrior Project, and I was looking for something for disabled veterans to go out and do. And I went to the practice for the Warriors. They had just brand new team, and went out to the practice, never ice skated a day in my life, and decided to go get on the ice with them. And I've been there ever since.
Right. So if I remember correctly, the first Warrior team was in Philadelphia, right?
I believe it was actually in DC.
In DC. Okay. Yeah. And then Philadelphia was like right behind it because they were the ones that kind of blew this up. The Philadelphia one was the one that I think they were the first NHL team to get behind the Warrior program. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think so. Pretty much right in 2019-18 timeframe. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a very, very new program for USA Hockey. And that's how the St. Louis Blues Warriors got into this in 2020, because when I say 1920, I mean the 2019-2020, because they had seen the article on that Philadelphia had done on the Philadelphia Warriors. But you guys actually started about a year. The Kansas City Warriors started about a year and a half before the Blues Warriors, correct?
Yep, that's correct. Yep.
Right. So while you're a part of this, you're out there like me. I had barely skated, that's why I broke my wrist when I did it, foiled doing something stupid, trying to just push a puck in the net. But you got an opportunity that just blows my mind, dude. It blows my mind. So talk about, and I want you to tell people about this opportunity and everything that went into it. I don't want to spoil the surprise, so I'll let you put it out there.
All right, man. I was lucky enough to be selected to go play the Denmark Operators Hockey Club, which is the Danish disabled veterans out there in Denmark. A lot of them are post 9/11 guys that have served in combat zones along with this. And USA Hockey came around and got a couple players from each club if they could, that were established. And I was lucky enough to be picked to go out and play. We were originally going to play in early 2020 and in the summer of 2020, but COVID kind of put it on a hiatus. So then we were able to get it done this August.
Yeah, I mean, to think about that, just to get picked for that, to be part of Team USA. Now, we sent 3 teams over, correct?
Yeah, 3 teams from Warrior Division and then a SOCOM team. So there are 4 US teams and then 3 Danish teams.
Wow. Yeah. From what I said, so I followed you religiously. You know that, right?
Yeah, I do.
Right. You know, I was, I was watching all your posts. I was liking them, sending you messages, just letting you know that I was behind you and behind all you guys over there. What are some of the experiences well, tell about getting the team together. The first time that I think you got to play as a team was in the tournament, right?
Right. We had seen, a lot of us had played against each other in other tournaments, but we never played together. Some of the people I didn't even know. We got there and showed up, and first time you see him and meet him is in the locker room. So it was pretty.
Yeah, Chris Shockley is telling me about your tournament that you had this weekend, telling me you and the Jewels had some interesting conversations.
Yeah, well, we ended up they were supposed to take the trophy and walk it to my truck after we won it. We had the I-70 showdown this weekend.
Yeah.
So
you know what? I'm really am hoping that when you have the one next year that I'm there for it. I am going to try everything in my power to get there for it next year, really.
Right? The really cool thing about this year was we were using it to raise money for one of the Warriors that has cancer. And so we were able to raise over $8,000 between the 2 clubs coming together to do that tournament for him and his family. So that's pretty awesome.
Oh, I mean, that is cool. I mean, really, that is really cool what you guys, what this whole program means, right? And like for me, for myself, just, I can't put into words what the Warrior, and I'm not even an active member because of where I live, right? I'm in Hawaii. There's nothing out here. Yeah. Right. We got nothing out here. If I was in St. Louis, I'd be a very, very active member, but I don't have that opportunity. But because of that, it's really hard for me to put into words what you guys do and what this program means to guys like me, and for guys to have that opportunity to do what they do on a regular basis. It's amazing. You're connected with the St. Louis Warriors through the Kansas City Warriors. And I know you have some brothers on those teams now. Was anybody on the St. Louis Warriors on that Denmark trip, or they hadn't been established soon enough yet?
Yeah, they hadn't been established yet when the rosters were established for that.
Yeah, that's what I figured. So next year, or the next time they have it, there's a good chance that there'll be some a Blues Warrior or 2 on that team.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. I hope it gets the opportunity for all the clubs in Warrior hockey to get an opportunity to play.
Yeah.
The Danes were incredible. They were such awesome hosts. They let us stay out on the military base there.
Yeah.
Provided some really fun times for us.
What's one of your memories? And I know it just happened, but what's one of the things that you took away from that? Not just the tournament, but being in Denmark. Now, personally, I spent a lot of time in Europe. I shouldn't say a lot of time. I did a 6-month deployment over there. Got to hit some ports and things like that, but that was I never got to go to Denmark. What was it like to go to Denmark, or what are some of your takeaways from that trip?
I think the number one thing that I took away from it is how grateful the Danes were for the American military providing security for their country. They were beyond grateful. I've never seen such gratitude for veterans, and especially American soldiers. And it wasn't just the players that were there; it was all the supporters. They had a good turnout for the big events that we were doing. Lots of support, and so that was the number one thing: how much gratitude they had for American service members.
Well, I mean that's really important, because recently there's been some stuff on Twitter and some others where people have sat there and demonized American service members for things that have happened in Japan and Korea and things like that. So to hear that there are countries that really do enjoy what you do or are appreciative of what you've done, that's huge. That's really huge, and it takes a lot. What is something from the tournament? What's a memory from the tournament that you took away?
I think just coming together with the Danish soldiers. You know, I'm not the greatest hockey player in the world by any means, but the support that they gave me on the ice, the support that they gave me off it, we just had this really awesome brotherhood. You know, um, there was times when our bench was short, and so we didn't have enough players probably to do full shifts. You know, maybe 2 shifts possible, but our 2 lines, and they came and added to our team. You know, added to our roster so that we could really get out there and compete when we were short.
Yeah, no, that's wow. So the Americans sent 3 teams over there. How did those teams do?
The American teams, they played pretty well. The SOCOM team was phenomenal. Those guys were off the charts. They were pretty good. But everybody, it was all mixed skill levels, so they were pretty evenly matched, the 3 American teams. But
Yeah.
we were able to, at least my team, we were undefeated against the Danes, which was, you know, good for our bragging rights. But we lost all our games to the other American teams. So.
When you're with these groups, and the one thing that I know about Warrior hockey, it's not about the hockey. And unfortunately, I wrote an article, and I wish I could bring that up and show you, but my website's down right now. It's not about the hockey as much as it is about after the hockey. It's creating those friendships, creating that family within, you know, the family. That's what it has. That's what a lot of it is. Is that the way the Danish teams are too? Are they creating that same kind of family with the
Oh yeah,
Warrior hockey over there?
yeah, hands down, they're doing the exact same thing. It's, you know, all about the mental health that you get, the camaraderie, the brotherhood. They have a motto for their teams called "No one gets left behind." You know, and so their brotherhood is just as strong as ours, and it's awesome to see that it's translucent of whatever country you're from. You know, you could be here in the States and have the same brotherhood over there that they have, and it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. No, I'm with you, and I've seen it too. I spent the majority of my career. I spent nine years of my career stationed in Yokosuka, Japan, and I had some connection with sailors of the Japanese Self Defense Force, things like that. I was lucky to meet some people like that, and I did have those connections. So I'm just kind of wondering for you, go through a little bit about your trip, how, you know, from leaving Kansas City to getting over there and playing. Just tell us about the trip in a whole, what it meant to you, and what are things that went on, funny things, good things. Talk about your trip to us.
Okay. Yeah. So, you know, I flew out of Kansas City to DC and caught my flight on Iceland Air, stopped over in Iceland for a day, and then, you know, just hung out and checked out some of the sites, and then flew into Copenhagen. I got there a couple days before the tournament, so I was able to go do a little sightseeing. Uh, One of the Danish members of the club, they came and met up with me and this guy from Germany, Tom. That he's an American soldier that came out to play, and me and him got to go to the Queen's Castle, our Queen's residence, and he's a carpenter there. And they had all these tools out that they just do everything by hand, no power tools, nothing, just phenomenal work. Got to go and do a private tour of that shop and the Queen's Castle there, and meet her dog and play with it for a little bit. And then he took us to this awesome Danish War Museum that's in Copenhagen. And they have this exhibit from Afghanistan. And walking through that exhibit, it's so real. It almost puts you back in the war zone, the way how the realism of it is. It starts off like you're in your barracks, and it transitions to your flight to combat zone, all the way through when you first get there on the fob, going out on patrol, and then reunited back with your family. The whole museum goes through that process. So that was pretty cool to do that. And then I got to see the Canadian women's national team play Denmark in a scrimmage game before the World Championships there. And they kind of lit up the Danish girls because they're kind of a newer international club. It was like 14-2 in that game. Then we drove up to Aalborg where the tournament was held, and we played hockey twice a day, 2 games a day, 20-minute periods, Olympic ice. It was pretty brutal, but
yeah, no, I can see that. Last year I was in St. Louis for the alumni camp, and those guys play 3 games a day. And they're almost back to back. They're back. I mean, you play a 40-minute running clock game, and then 20 minutes after that game, you're starting another game. So,
it was brutal as far as the hockey and the pace and the fatigue. But there's so much stuff. They had a barbecue event for us set up. So they hosted us at one of the sponsors' business, and they did some barbecue pork.
Yeah.
Being from KC, barbecue is kind of important here. So. They did a great job though. It could compete, I think.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what was some of the food that you had while you were over there?
There's 2 things that stood out to me. Mostly, I did not know that the Danes love hamburgers as much as they do. It seems like there was hamburgers everywhere. Like every restaurant had hamburgers, but they do it kind of a little different. They would have a fully dressed burger, and then they would have this gravy over the top of it with some beets and stuff like that. But it was pretty good. And then the other thing was these hot dogs. And I have a video. I should share it with you of how they dress the hot dog and everything. It was this little bitty bun, but this huge hot dog. And I mean,
I love hot dogs. I'm a big hot dog guy.
I don't know if that's like the tradition, but man, they were good at it. And everywhere I went, they had those hot dog stands. So I think that's part of the culture there.
Yeah. Right. Well, Johnny, you being from KC, do you follow Blues hockey at all? Or are you a fan of another team?
I am a Blues fan. When I worked for Wounded Warrior Project, I'd take Warriors to about 6 games a season.
Okay, well, then, so today there was and we'll talk more about your experience, but I try and bring my fans into this. He says, Matt Lowe, big fan of mine, says, what do you guys think of the Cairo extension, and who do you see performing at the Traverse City tourney, which is Thursday, Friday, and Sunday? I'll go with you first, and what do you think of the Cairo extension? And I've heard some things already, and I'll talk about that after you go.
Well, I like it. I like when players get paid to play the game. I think he's a good player. I'm excited for him to get out of there and show his value. Challenge himself to make it worth it.
Yeah. Well, for me, so I've already seen some stuff in different posts, and one of a lot is still coming out about the Perron, leaving, not re-signing in St. Louis. And unfortunately, then for me, I've paid a lot of attention to the Perron deal, right? And I've listened to a lot of things that were said, and Perron, to me, never wanted to stay in St. Louis, right? And because he was offered money, and him and his agent just never dealt. That just never went and negotiated back. He could have easily gotten the same money here that he got there. It's not like he got $4 million more. He got $750,000 more a year. So it's something that could have done both ways, right? Yeah. The other thing is, to me, Perron. Everyone thinks Perron leaves this huge hole, right? And he doesn't. I think the hole that he leaves is like this. It's a lot smaller than people are looking at. It's not like the Blues, like the Avalanche, lost 230 points this year, and they only brought in 30. They're missing 200 points from their roster. The Blues are missing 70, but brought in 30. They brought points in to cover it up. And the other thing is, unfortunately, I think a lot of Blues fans, and I know I'm going to piss some people, are uneducated to how the salary cap works, right? Because the Cairo signing has absolutely nothing to do with this year. Same with the Thomas signing. has nothing to do with this year. It's all to do with next year, right? And what we don't know is how much how much the cap is going to go up next year, right? If that cap goes up $3 or $4 million, there's going to be money that wasn't expected to be there that could help. I think that the Cairo signing, while it's a decent one, I mean, I think it might have been better to wait, but it also, I don't see either O'Reilly or Tarasenko coming back to the Blues now. I used to think Tarasenko would. I did. Now this signing thinks to me that they're both going to move on, and I don't see, and I know this is blasphemy, but I don't see O'Reilly finishing the season with the Blues. Right? He does not have a no trade clause. Right? You don't even have to wait to the trade deadline. There could be teams desperate for him in December, January, when you can make that move and bring somebody in that can still help your team get to where it needs to go. I still look at the Blues as the classes. I don't think I'm like the only one out there. I'm standing all alone on an island. I don't think the Avalanche are going to make the playoffs. Right? I don't. You got to, for me, and I think I know, I don't know how well you know me. I don't look at the surface of the game. I never do. I always look at the undercurrent. I always look underneath it because there's so much more happening. On the surface, the Avalanche look like this great team. Oh, they got all this core together and all this. But when you get under that surface, you look and you see that, first of all, they lost 230 plus points, right? And the guys that they didn't re-sign, in Kadri, Arbor Cool or whatever his name is, and some others, right? That's a lot of points to make up.
Yeah.
It really is, especially in a league that is becoming offensive, right? Unless the league, because last season we had more 100-point players than we have since the early 90s, right? When 100-point was normal. It's been a while since that happened. And so when you see that, there's a chance that take a step back, but it's not going to be a huge step back, right? The league is getting, the rules are all more offensive, right? They all do there. The other thing is, in goalie, they didn't get a better goalie. They got a worse goalie, right? They let Kemper go, who wasn't a great goalie to begin with, and brings in, and I can't think of his name now because it's just, I'm doing this off the top of my head, but they bring in the guy from the, I want to say the Islanders. And you know, that, I just look at it, I don't think that he's going to be any better than what Kemper was. And then the biggest thing that I think everybody's missing, last season, the Avalanche came into the season with a big chip on their shoulder. Cup or bust. I mean, it was huge. Cup or bust. Well, now that chip's gone. And with that chip being gone, I really think that that's going to affect their play. It's going to affect their style. I don't think they're going to be as offensive as they were. I don't think they're going to be nowhere near as defensive. And not only that, the Blues last season were right there with them. Statistically, not points-wise, but statistically, the Blues scored one more goal than they did and only allowed a couple more than the Avalanche did. The Blues were the third best offensive team in the league. The Avalanche were the fifth best or fourth best. The Blues were the 11th best defensive team. The Avalanche were the 8th best defensive team. That's how close those two teams were. The Blues lost one player, really one player, right? I think Greiss is a better goalie than Husso was. I think Husso got exposed in the playoffs, and that was that was huge to me. When he started the season and he wasn't giving up goals in the first couple of shots, I'm thinking, okay, he's got it together. When that started happening in the playoffs, in that second game of the first round, and then it happened in the third game of the first round, and then it happened as soon as he comes in for Bennington. They score right on like the first or second shot. Now, it was a hell of a shot from McKinnon. I know that, but still, there's when you look under the surface, you look at what the Avalanche have lost, and you got to go, really? This team is that good? I don't think so.
Yeah.
Right? Did I just talk your ear off too much?
No, not at all. Educating me.
Right? No, and that's how I look at it, and that's what I see right now with that. And let's get into some comments here. Sammy's, I think that, talking to you, Jason says it's going to be a wicked playoff beard, bro. I think you haven't stopped your playoff beard. I still say cohesiveness suffered because of COVID, and that hurts defense more. Shockey, I think you're right, but I also think that the Blues got better defensively by not making moves. Right? I look at Leddy and I go, what did Leddy show us in the playoffs? In 20 games, he got Berube's defensive system. Right? You go back and you look at the last couple of guys, the last two new guys to come into this system defensively. Not young guys. I'm talking guys that have played elsewhere to come into the system. You look at Falk. Falk came into the system in 19 and 20 and had a rough time. It was during the pause that he figured it out. It took him almost a season. Well, then you look at Krug, same thing. Krug comes in during that shortened 56-game season and has trouble figuring it out until this season. Well, here's two really good defensemen that it took an entire season to figure out Berube's defensive system, and it took Leddy 20 games. Well, if it took him 20 games to figure it out, how good is he going to be over a full season? I think our defense is better than people are going to give it credit for. And also, I got to look at Parayko a little bit, and I got to think that Parayko has the ability to get out of this funk. Right? He still scored 35 points, was tied the most he's done two other times, I think it was, 2 or 3 other times. If he just gets a little bit more physical, if he just fires that puck, uses that shot just a little bit more, they're going to be a much better defensive team. And now I got him like stunned. I don't know what to say. So trying to talk about everything, Johnny. I mean, I don't want to get too much away from your experience, but unfortunately, the day that we plan this is the day that the day that Kyrou signs it. And now Sammy makes a good point here, and he says, "Okay, the analysis say they got better, but I'm newer to hockey, but I love it." Well, Sammy, I got to say something about the analysis out there. There are analysts out there that told me, I talked to some of these guys that told me straight up last year that Tarasenko, Bushnevich, and Barbashev would never work. Would never work. As soon as Bushnevich got traded here, I brought that up. And I got told it wouldn't work. Look how well it worked. Right? They say what people want to hear, not what they really think. And that's what I think is the problem. That a lot of these analysts, they're stuck. Right? They're stuck in old ways of thinking. And when you look under the surface, you cannot look at the Avalanche and say they got better. Yeah, you can't. In my eyes, you cannot. You cannot lose that many points and say you got better. Can't get a goalie that really has a big question mark on him and say you're better. That's how I look at it. What's your thought process, Johnny?
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. You can't lose that many points and have a questionable goalie and say you got better, unless you have a lot of faith in the new players coming in, maybe some young blood that wants to be the next superstar, and he blows the analyst out of the water with his skill and prowess out there. But you're right. You can't lose that many points and have a questionable goalie and get better.
Yeah, they just lost too much. And again, I think that coming in with that cup or bust attitude. You can't do that two times in a row, right? Fortunately for the Tampa Bay Lightning, they got lucky the way it happened for them, because they had the pause before the bubble, which helped them a lot, and then they had the shortened season, which helped them a lot. So that's why I think that they were able to overcome that chip on the shoulder in the second season. I don't think the Avalanche have anything like that that's going to help them, right? And that's just where I go. I just don't see it. Gorgiev, that's who it was, from the Rangers, is the goalie. Yeah, and Francoeur is the other. Yeah, I don't think that's a good. And thank you, Dale. I couldn't remember off the top of my head. It was sitting there. I can't see it. I can't see it. Right. For me. Well, yeah, that helped them too. They had that when it got to the finals, they had opponents that weren't even close to being there. They didn't have solid opponents, and that's another thing. And I'll give that. Let's get back. Now that we've talked about that, let's get back to Johnny and his experience, and let's talk a little bit about Warrior hockey. How did you get involved in Warrior hockey, Johnny?
Yeah, I just, like I said that, I came out to the Kansas City Warriors practice to bring some other vets out, and they said, "Hey, get on the ice." And I was like, I don't know about this. I love hockey, but I'm not ready to skate. But they were like, "Hey, you're going to be out there anyway." And so they didn't give me an option. And from that day on, the next day I went out and I bought all my gear, went down to the local hockey shop, bar down here in Kansas City, and got all my gear. And then next thing you know, I'm playing in a tournament after my 4th time ever ice skating. I was like, what the hell are you guys doing to me? It was funny because one of our players, Chris Landis, he wouldn't. I would always go through the doors, to get on the ice, and finally he just held the door shut and said, "Nah, dude, you got to go over the boards." And I'm like, I can barely skate, but they had me. It was a terrible hockey. It wasn't very good hockey because all I did was skate blue line to blue line. So, but. I
didn't do, you know what, John? I didn't do much more, my friend. I did not do much more. Tell us about your service. When did you serve? How long? What branch?
Yeah, so I served 17 years. I joined the Army actually the day that Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait back in 1990. It was August 2nd, and went through basic AIT as an infantryman. And then went to the first Gulf War with the 101st, and then spent a little bit of time in all these other places through the 90s, Bosnia, Kosovo, and then in 2002 went to Afghanistan. And then in 2004 went to Iraq and was wounded in 2005, in January 2005, and then medically retired in 2007.
So actually, you and me retired at the same time. So for me, I joined the Navy. Well, I went to a Navy high school in St. Louis, Cleveland, NJROTC. A lot of people know about that. Joined the Navy right out of high school in September of '87. My first ship was in Norfolk, and I did a med cruise. That's where I got to see Europe a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit. Then in 1990, when he invaded Kuwait, I was in sea school in Great Lakes and got stationed on a ship. Met my second ship, the USS Mobile Bay, which is where my number comes from.
Okay, gotcha.
That's where my number comes from. The Mobile Bay was CG-53. Met the Mobile Bay on December 24th, 1990 in Dubai. Right. Wow. And I think it was either Dubai or Jabal Ali. I can't remember. It might have been Jabal Ali. They all like roll into one.
Yeah.
But during the first Gulf War, while you guys were out there in the sand, we were 22 miles off the coast of Kuwait in a minefield. Right.
Oh,
yeah. So, we were getting the same, the oil fires from the, that they were setting off. We were right in the middle of all of that. So no, I was there for all of that. when you know, I was there when Mount Pinatubo blew up in the Philippines. Well, we went down right after it. I did clean up there, stuff like that. So, you know, I was in all of those operations. I did in 2001, right after 9/11. I want to say 2 weeks after, maybe 3 weeks at the most. We came on a Saturday. Everybody got told that everyone had to be on the ship on Sunday. Right? Everyone had to be on the ship on Sunday. We came in Sunday morning, did a muster, and then they had everybody inside the skin of the ship. And that's when the CO told us, we're getting underway tomorrow and we don't know when we're coming back. Right?
Yeah. So like when I went to the first Gulf War, I just finished airborne school, and I didn't even, you know, I showed up at Fort Campbell, and then from Fort Campbell straight to a platoon that I, you know, never trained with. But I met my platoon while I was in country in Saudi Arabia. So,
Ryan Green wants to know if I would sign you to the same deal as Kairu got. Johnny seems like a tough cookie. Well, I'll move the comma and the decimal point. Right? Instead of him getting 8.1 million a year, he'll get $8.1 a year for the next 7 years, next 8 years to come on the show.
Hey, I'll take it. I'll take it.
Oh man, that was a good one.
I don't care if it's a nickel or a million. Getting paid to play hockey would be pretty awesome.
This says Johnny, looks like there's no Johnny, like a no visor type of guy. Thank you for your service, sir, and everything you've done with the veterans and hockey. Awesome. No, and it is. And like I said, I want to be, the only way I can get involved is getting guys like you on my show right now. Right. Yeah. And I want to do more of that. I want to get more of the guys from Dallas Warriors, the Kansas City Warriors, the different teams, to bring them on, to give them a chance to talk about what they're doing out there, because it's so much more than just playing a sport.
Oh, it is. It is. You know, I know in Kansas City we use hockey heels a lot. You know, it's kind of our mantra. I've seen it change so many people. You know, they get out there, especially in the mental health realm. You know, guys are struggling with PTSD. I've struggled with that myself.
Oh, I know.
And then getting out on the ice, it's like there's so much going on. In those moments as you're on the ice, you don't even get a chance to think about whatever trauma or experiences you've had. All you get to do is think about hockey, think about the guy out on the ice with you, and that's it. And so it's very therapeutic and healing.
Now I don't, this might come off the wrong way, and I hope it doesn't. I am very grateful that the Blues Warriors have allowed me to be this honorary member, got me in my own jersey and that, and look at me as part of them. At the same time, you know, I feel, you know, I'm not part of that family, you know, that's in the texting and all that, because I know that group supports each other so deeply every day. And you know, they talked about, you know, the day where they had the guy who came on and pardon me, I'm going to tear up here a little bit, because I know I have a friend of mine going through the same thing that this guy was, and I'm not going to say names and any of that, but the day when one of the guys looks at another guy and sees that 1,000-yard stare and just knows something's wrong, and they pull him in and get him to open up, you know, hey, I'm an alcoholic, you know, I'm an addict and I need help, and yes, I'm at that point. You know, that type of that's hard to understand unless you've been there and you've seen it or you deal with it. That what the Warrior program does is it give guys that would have never had a chance to not be part of the 22.
Yeah, for sure. You know, like personally, back in June, I struggled bad. I thought about ending my own life back in June, and I put a Facebook message out, and I got responses from all over the country from other Warriors saying, "Hey, you know, we're here for you. We got your back." And even people I'd never even met, and people in the hockey community, like Clint Malarchuk, reached out to me, and it was like, "Hey Johnny, I could get you to this place that could help you." And I ended up doing an inpatient, for close to 30 days, and it was embarrassing to have to do inpatient, but at the same time, I wanted to make sure that I let it out there so people could see that, if I could get it help, they could get help. And it's literally other people that I know have gone and decided to do inpatient or Warrior hockey players that are struggling with PTSD.
Yeah, no, I'm there. I struggle with addiction. I've talked about my addiction on the show before. I don't want to go into it. I struggle with addiction. I struggle with mental health. I struggle with the PTSD, just like, everybody else does. I really do. And, so one of the things that helps me, actually, I started the show because of it. I did. I started my show because of my mental health struggles. And one of the things that helps me is knowing that I've got people out there that if I say, hey, I just need to talk to somebody, they're there. And that does help. And to have that community that's ready to jump into action when it needs to, it's special. And, I hear so much, and I'm going to be slightly political here, and I hope I don't piss anybody off, but I hear so much about how, let's never forget our veterans. Let's never forget our veterans. Veterans are the first people they're fucking forgotten about. We are forgotten about so quickly, it's not even funny how quickly veterans are forgotten about. I have been yelled at for using my veteran status to try and get, my business going in that. I mean, I've been chastised for that. Well, wait a minute. You say you're not going to forget veterans, yet you're going to chastise me for doing that. So, I've been there. I know what it's like to go through that. And what I don't have is that family. And that's what, when I do move back to, St. Louis, which I'm hoping to, in the next year or so, if things work right, to have that connection that I know is there, and to have friends like you that are willing to help. And I just so much appreciate you, Johnny.
Yeah. Like I'm 6'4", 245, somewhere around there. I can handle myself pretty well, but like you could be in the valley, the shadow of death. You can't do it alone. You got to have people there. I could go and fight all I want by myself, and I'm not gonna win that fight unless I have that support system. And getting the brothers that behind you, it makes sure you're not alone in that valley, man. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, no, you're right. It is very hard. In 2018, when I had my episode, I was touched by the people that reached out to me from shipmates that I hadn't heard from in years, that immediately reached out to me and really started chiding me for not talking about it. And I was surprised. It really stung me that happened. You know what, Ryan? That would be a great dream, but I don't think it will ever happen, to be honest with you, my friend. I have too many distractors. I have too many people that don't want me to succeed, that are going to make it. But that would be a dream, my friend. That would be an absolute dream. No, it's just what the Warrior program does. What it means is it takes people that, like you, had never skated before, and says, yes, you can.
Yep, for sure.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Not only you're overcoming mental health stuff, but physical stuff. Like I cannot go out and run 2 miles. There's no way I can run 2 miles with injuries.
Yeah.
But I could go out and skate and be part of a team and compete against other veterans. Like, even in the rec leagues, compete against civilians or just people in the community, and that's pretty awesome when you've had some really serious injuries, or even if they're not serious, but things that keep you from enjoying the things that you like.
Yeah, no, it does. It does bring. It brings it. there are wounds that cannot be seen. There are wounds that are not seen, and people don't understand that, right? And those are the wounds that really don't heal, right? And I think you get that as much as I do. And there's thing, and Chris Saki says, Buff showed up at my house when I lived an hour and a half away because of something I said in chat. And that's what, that's what I was kind of talking about earlier, where I'm not connected to them that way, where I wish I was. But what you guys all do, it's amazing. It really is amazing. And then the fact that you're so connected to other warriors that you could do these different tournaments. I know St. Louis, you were actually supposed to be at a tournament when I was home, and you guys backed out.
Oh yeah, Pittsburgh. Was it the Pittsburgh tournament? Is that
the one in 2021?
I'm trying.
It was the showcase, the Warrior Showcase.
Okay, yeah. We didn't make that one, but
yeah, because I was going to broadcast that one, right? I broadcast some of it. That was the weekend I broke my wrist.
Okay. Yeah,
right. So
I've got to play with Nebraska Warriors too. So I played on their club actually in Vegas, in Philly. I got knocked out cold in the game against Philly, but literally out cold. It wasn't intentional though. Took a skate to the head. So
yeah, no. Things happen. It just is what it is. But it's great. Let's get back to Denmark a little bit, right?
Okay.
What is something from that experience that and I want to kind of get this. I want to get at the deepest level of it. What is something so deep that you took away, if you can talk about it, from that tournament?
I think that when you serve your countries and you sign a line to risk your life for freedom for other people, it doesn't matter what nationality, what country you're from. There's that warrior ethos and that warrior code that connects everybody. And I really hadn't experienced that kind of connection and commonality and war fighting and being that warrior. And so that's one thing that I took. They have the same struggles that we have. They have the same mental health issues that we have. They have the same traumas. They have the same experiences. And you never really think of it until you're together and you're talking over dinner, and they're saying the exact same things and experiencing the exact same things that you are. And so you build that connection that you never even could imagine before.
Yeah, no, I can get that. I can get that. Let me put big old thank you to John Hefner, Sammy Helms, Scooter Foster, Nick Halsey, Jason Nichols, and John Jameson for putting that thumbs in the air. Me and Johnny both appreciate that a lot. Actually, Chris Saki says, you guys, that's right. You guys were there for Saturday, but Saturday's the day I broke my wrist. So I didn't get out. When I got out of John Cochran, it was like 2 or 3 in the afternoon. And they had drugged me up, and I was, I don't remember anything. I barely remember that Saturday. I mean, I remember getting to John Cochran, and after that, I have pictures of me with my hand up like this and then pulling it and trying to twist it and all of that stuff. But but you guys weren't there on Sunday when I was there broadcasting. So that's why. So Chris Saki, you're right. Thank you for that. Jason Nichols says the wounds that can't be seen are the ones that people can't understand. Therefore, I try and keep my life a glass book. If you know everything, it's easier for me to be understood. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not, Jason. And then it's not a knock on you. Sometimes they're just things that, it's really hard to get out and talk about. It really is. It really pulls away from what your experiences are. And there's also a lot of times where when you close your eyes, and I think Johnny can admit this, you close your eyes thinking that tonight's the night I'm going to sleep, and you don't. You never do. You never have that night come, and it over and over again, and it wears you out. It wears you out really bad. Right?
Yeah, that's for sure. I could say the more involved you are in processing whatever trauma you had, if you go out, you put the work in, it does get a little bit easier. Is it ever going to be perfect? It's always going to be up and down, but it does get easier when you put the work in to try to process it. And that's the hard building trust enough to open up to somebody to do that, that takes a lot of courage and, a lot of time.
Okay, well, as we're getting ready, we're winding this down. What is something funny? What is one of the funniest things that happened while you were in Denmark?
Okay, so they have this, it's from this king, Christian the Fourth, and it's this organization that I wish I could pronounce it. I can't pronounce the name of it, but they inducted 16 of us into this organization, and people like Ronald Reagan and Richard Nixon and royalty are all part of it. But they gave us this key to this bar that was used by the Danish resistance during World War II. And so I have a key to a bar in Denmark. But as part of the ritual, we had to sing, and they marched us around through the town square. We're all lined up and singing a song. And they had some guys playing what's that thing?
Accordion?
Yeah, that's it. Accordion and a violin at the same time. And it was pretty funny walking through the street. But that, it was an honor, but it was still, they used so much humor when they were inducting us into it. We had boiled hot dogs, and there's some pretty funny songs that we were singing. So it was awesome to be able to do that. And the key to the bar really works. So
So next time Johnny goes to Denmark, we're going with him, and he's taking us to the bar. It's on him.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome.
Oh man, I'm really. It just sounds so exciting. I wish I would have had that opportunity. I really do. It's neat that you got that experience. Wow, I just. Hopefully we'll get to talk to you more about it, as the season goes on, or, you can talk about more. Well, you know what, before we go, talk about what you did last weekend, what you guys did last weekend. I think that'd be a good way to leave the show tonight.
So last weekend we had the I-70 showdown, and we had our upper team and our lower team from Kansas City. We played St. Louis's lower team and their Charlie team. And then the Alpha team played the Missouri University team. But it was a fundraiser to raise money for a warrior that has cancer, and brought everybody together. And we call it the I-70 Showdown. Since we're both competing each other, we always have great games, and so raised about a little over $8,000 for this warrior and his family. And it's just humbling to be able to do it. And I was able to break out my mascot costume for a little bit. I have a giant Sasquatch called Johnny Sasquatch, and I brought him out to take some pictures with the kids. Made a few of them cry. They were really little though, so giving mascot scares the little ones. But so
yeah, I got to say thank you so much. And then Chris Shockey says that Sunday Rammer had a great quote. He says, "You guys may look stupid, but you're not dumb." I got to do it. Matt Lowe says right on, Johnny. Johnny, thanks so much for joining me tonight. Taking time out of your busy schedule and doing this and coming on. I know you were supposed to do it last week, but I was, unfortunately, me and my co-hosts were in a pretty bad space, and I just needed to reschedule it. So I appreciate you allowing me to do that. So again, Johnny, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Hey, it's an honor, man. Thanks for having me. And just to all those people out there listening in, if you're struggling with PTSD or mental health things, hey, it's okay to seek help and go out and take care of yourself. Everybody's going to support you. Nobody's going to judge you.
Oh, I know, man, and I greatly appreciate it. Don't forget, tomorrow night, special show. I'll work on the promo here later today. Brian Kelly from the Home Loan Expert, who sponsors the Blues, among other teams, is going to come on and join us. He's going to talk hockey. He's going to talk about climbing mountains for kids and lots of other things. Maybe we'll ask him a question or two about the home loans and give him a chance to meet, and you a chance to talk to a guy directly. So don't forget, tell your friends about it. We'll see you tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. We moved the show up an hour earlier. I think it helps and works for a little bit more. Matlow says, "You're the man, Johnny. Hope to see you back on the Fan Report." Well, he's always welcome. All he's got to do is ask, and we'll bring him on. We greatly appreciate Johnny, and we appreciate all of you for watching today. So this is Guy, the Hawaii Blues fan, with Johnny Neal from the Kansas City Warriors Hockey, saying aloha, mahalo, and you got to know We're both bleeding blue with you.
Hawaii Blues fan, we're bleeding blue with you. Let's go Blues! Let's go Blues! Let's go Blues!
Let's go Blues.
Let's go Blues!
And aloha.